Hello? Sorry, I got to get everything ready real quick. uh, to be honest with you, I was sitting there thinking, I've roped in front of 50, 60,000 people. Never nervous wreck, right? Kind of nervous. Today, coming up here, I don't get nervous about stuff, but I am nervous, just to be honest, because I want it to be good, and I don't want to be in the way of it. I want it to be a message that is from God and not from Sammy, if that makes any sense to everybody here. And that'll be the last time I use that word, Jonathan. He told me not to use that as much, but he's one of the guys that I call every day just to give y'all, kind of how I ended up here today. Is I talk to Jonathan every day, and he basically hears a sermon from me. And then poor Robert, he gets it from about 8:30 in the morning until almost 9:30, 10 o'clock every day, right? But it's one of the things that what I'm talking about today is foundation. And that's part of the way I have to keep my structure together and sound. It's just one of the things that I have to do. But just give me 1 second, and I'll get all my notes planned out right here. And it's going to be over Matthew today, and it's going to be over the foundation. And how important we were given the greatest foundation there is. There's this most perfect. It's not man-made. It's God, right? And so if you want to put up Matthew 7:24 through 27, and it says, "Everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock," right? So the foundation that cannot fail. Every true believer begins their life in Christ, right? With the same miracle, a foundation that is not man-made. It's not laid with brick or stone. It is a promise. When you give your life to Jesus, God himself lays the foundation in you, right? Okay, so we're going to talk about that foundation. So we're blessed with the most perfect foundation. It doesn't get cracks. It does, but then we have the structure in our life every day, and the structure is just like. The reason I come up with this is I was on a house the other day, and I got this little checklist, and I go over it after you go to look at these houses after storms, right? So you check the roof, you check this, you check that, you check this, you check that, and it's got this little deal that's kind of like a blueprint that I go off of. And during this, I was sitting on this house, and it's $1.5 million home. And I'm looking across all these other houses out there, and I'm just kind of sitting on the roof because it was hot for a second, to be honest with you. And I was thinking, man, this is a shame. I said, all these nice foundations and, nice looking structures, but this house's roof was no good. It was poorly put on. Everything about it was poorly, right? And that's just like our life. If our structure doesn't stay sound, and we can, we have the most perfect foundation. But if, say, on that roof, it had not put on well. So it had leaks starting to form. This house, 6 years old, leaks in the house, the sheetrock's falling in, different things like that, that's coming. Well, whenever all this stuff starts taking place, it doesn't just affect the roof. It's going to get the rafters. It's going to get the sheetrock. And then if you don't watch it, that house is going to fall in, it's if you don't repair it, and we have to repair throughout the week. It says, like in the Lord's Prayer, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. It's, our daily bread. We have to do that daily. Somebody like me, I have to do it usually probably hourly, and it's not that I'm saying I'm a bad person. I just know that I've had to rebuild my structure more than once in a lifetime, right? I've let it fall completely down, and I've had to start over. And it's just like a business. You can have the greatest foundation, a great, beautiful business, right? But if you got a little bit of problem here and a little bit of problem over here, those problems just start weeding their way through everything. And the next thing you know, you can take this and turn it upside down overnight. And that's just, and during all this, we have a blueprint. We've been given the blueprint, God's blueprint, the Word, right? We know what we're supposed to do. But as humans, it's just like we have a tendency, because we live in a fast-paced world. We live in a world where it's a lot of darkness, right? And we're in a hurry, and a hurry, and a hurry, and a hurry. But this is something we cannot be in a hurry about. This structure in our life, we can't be in a hurry about it. We have to stop, and we have to do that God's blueprint. Because when we start getting in a hurry, we start cutting corners. And it's just like building a home or anything else. We got a time, we got a time frame, we got a time frame. Oh, just throw that up over there. Know that, do this. But that little bitty corner that was cut is sooner or later it's going to stand, it's going to come out. It's going to come out. So every single corner that we cut, we will see it sooner or later. And then the integrity of us every day, we have to be honest with ourselves. I have to be brutally honest with myself, because I lived, we probably all lived at one point kind of us, to a degree. We have to stay out of the way, and we have to make sure that we don't cut these corners. And then temptation to cut the corners, and then the foundation is our salvation, right? God's foundation. Perfect. That's our salvation, right? And with the walls, we have to, like in a house, say the walls would be obedient. We have to be very obedient to what to the word every day, to fellowship. We have to have fellowship. We have to have word. We have to have, we also have to be not judgmental. That's a big, if I'm constantly working on me, which I have to, I don't have time to work on you, and I think that's a very important thing. If somebody comes to you, I was at a deal yesterday, and we always want to have an answer for some reason. While somebody's talking, the first thing we want to do is we're thinking, how can I answer this? How can I give them the answer? We don't need to give them the answer. God will give them the answer. We need to just guide them, lead them to God. And, I had to learn that, because I'm bad about it. I'm 100% bad about it. Somebody's talking, I'm thinking, well, how can I answer this question? I want to sound smart. I want to sound intelligent, da-da-da-da. But that means I'm getting in the way. I'm getting in God's way. And that goes back to some of that, our structure, how important that structure is in our life. And, the neat thing is, like the foundation is God's promise, right? And we have all these different rooms. We have daily disciplines, like say prayer. A house without prayer is nothing, period. If your house don't have prayer in it, you don't have much of your house is unprotected. It's unprotected, very unprotected. It lets anything in. It lets all of it in. Darkness, anger. You don't get to live like Robert said, and I love this, and this is something I put on my phone, and I keep it right there close by because I loved it. Galatians 5:22 through 23. It says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace. Right? Long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. So when our structure is pretty solid, we get to live like that. We get to have that peace in our home. We get to have that peace. We get to have that joy in our heart. But when we don't take care of our structure daily or hourly or whatever, I don't know your relationship with God. It's not my business, to be honest with you. My business is Sammy, and right. So what all I'm trying to get at today is how important it is to, if you want to have all this stuff in your life, like Galatians says right there, that structure has to be very, very sound. And to do all this, we have to have service. We have to be a service to others. We have to be forgiving. If we can't forgive, we can't be forgiven. So that's part of that structure as well. That's would be your walls or your rooms inside your home. All these different little things that we have to do and that we have to make sure we take care of on a daily basis. I mean, it says a daily basis. For like me, I have to take care of it on a regular basis. Hourly maybe, something, whatever. It's and so we have the perfect foundation, but we can as humans in a whole, we can get in a hurry, right? And we no longer go by God's blueprint for us. And when we do that, our structure, like I was talking about earlier, it'll fall in. It will fall in, But there is a little deal, like I was just talking about. If we do take care of it, which, don't you drive a vehicle, you have to maintain it. You have to put oil in it. You have to check this. You have to do, just like a house, you need to maintain your house. Maintenance. That's every day we have to have this maintenance in our life. We have to have it. I mean, if we want to be that person that he set us out to be. It's so important. And have I always been that person? No. I've rebuilt my house so many times, my structure so many times but you know what? We wasn't promised there's storms in our life, right? He didn't promise there wouldn't be storms, but he did tell us this. During these storms that we will learn, right? During these storms in life, we will learn. And the seasons can change overnight. It can go from this to this immediately. During that storms in our lives or trials or whatever you may call it, it will let you know what part of your structure is not sound. That, I got a problem over here, or, like we have a hailstorm or we have a windstorm on a home or something like that. It'll let you know quick what's wrong. We got to fix this. We got to repair this. We got to do this. And, that is so important that the blessing that we get, and that we're sometimes I think we might take it for granted from sometimes, but he never varies from the love for us. No matter if we have to rebuild our house 10 times, it's not over. Sometimes so many people in this world have a problem that, it gets so bad that it feels like it's over, But he's given us the grace, that grace that we can rebuild that structure and we can start over at any time of life, right? And it's so important to remember that. And to remember when we walk by somebody that might be having a problem, we don't walk by as, we reach down and we help them. But we don't have to put anything in there. We don't have to tell them. We just lead them to God and let him take care of it. It's, and that's part of our structure, being that kind of person. That's part of standing on top of that great foundation, the most perfect foundation. We don't want to vary from our structure and have a poor structure with him giving us the greatest foundation there is, the most perfect, not man-made, God. And there's so many things in life that we have to be very careful about, right? Judgment, during these, your storms and this and that, you'll be having a storm and the next guy standing beside you, or me, all he has to do is do this and he'll be well. It's not my place. That's not my place to figure out what he needs to do, right? I can reach down and put my hand out there and help him and help him repair his structure if he needs it, not with me telling him what to do, but leading him to God. And, all that stuff, everything I'm talking about today has to do with our structure. And I was telling Cannon a while ago, I said, this message can go so many different ways because there's so many things about our structure. There's prayer, there's fellowship. All you people in here, all of our family members, the people that we talk to on the phone throughout the day, our circle that we're with, all that stuff is part of our structure. It's all, every bit of it. And hang one sec. So I guess at the end, what the end result is that whenever he's given us a blueprint, right? So we lay every wall, if we had to rebuild or repair these structures, you lay every wall with obedience. Not just hear, we can't just hear his word. We have to be it. We have to do it. It doesn't do any good. You can hear all day long, but if you don't put it into action, if we don't put it into action, we're getting nowhere. We're not being obedient. And that's so important. It's all that stuff about, when I go back to judgment, caring, loving, happiness. You can't have that stuff if you're not obedient. Is the key to everything, even in business or building a home or a marriage or being a son. My mom's a lucky lady over there, right? But you have to be obedient. You have to be an obedient person, because and then the integrity goes back into, if we don't put integrity into this, or integrity into building when we're building a home, or being a husband, or being a father, or being a friend, if we don't put integrity behind that, then you don't want to be that person that's just there to get something off the next guy. And you don't really, and that will be done to you from time to time. And then the thing that we have to consider is that we have to be forgiving. That was done. I don't want to deal with it. Well, you know what? They made a mistake. Have you ever made a mistake? So that goes back to that forgiveness. That goes back to our structure of our home, I guess to say. And then, we have to seal every single joint with prayer. Like I said, a prayerless home or a prayerless family, there's no protection over that. There's no protection over your family, over you, over your home, over your friends. A lot of me and my friends, we pray all the time, all the time. Jonathan, he's one of my, I guess, one of the persons I look up to, because like Robert was saying before, he does he's the real deal. Cancer, everything, still going to the jail. He's going to help other people. He's something to kind of look at every day. And that's why I call Jonathan and I call Robert, and their structures are sound, and it's just like when you build a house, you got these people that, there's been trial and error building homes and stuff, right? So through this, we have laws and rules that we have to follow, because we know that this will be the right way to build it, the right way to put the plumbing in, right? So by watching some of the people that, like Jonathan and Robert and this and that gives me a blueprint. I have God's blueprint, but sometimes I need a little bit of help from others. And Jonathan never tells me, do this, Sammy, and neither does Robert. Read the word. Do this. Read the word. You know what I'm talking about? They'll guide me in that direction. They'll guide me in God's direction. So, I think it's very important to keep our structure sound, that we have to have the right people around us. Because you put a lot of darkness around you. If you can step over that line a little bit, or just a little bit of darkness, and it wants to creep in. The devil, he doesn't come at the foundation. He knows he can't beat that. He understands he cannot beat that foundation. But where will he come at? That structure and every aspect of it. If he can make that roof a little weak, he knows that it'll just go all through everything. Just like on a home. If he knows that he makes that, and then we got to reinforce, like I was just talking about with the fellowship with people. That's very important. And then you got to cover your house with worship. Without worship, it's restless. It's a structure that's exposed to every element. Without worship, every element exposed to every element, every darkness there is exposed to it. That's really scary when in a roundabout way. Is if you think about faltering, why would we want to falter on a perfect foundation? Why would we want to build a poor structure on the most perfect foundation given to us? Have I done it? Yes, more than once. Like I keep saying, please don't think I'm leaving myself out on anything of this, but the more I grow every day, and the more we grow, the closer we come to God, the more we learn not to be judgmental. We learn to have that sound structure. We learn. As humans, we have to learn. There's trial and error. Not just everybody gets to be a goody good. Some of us has got to go through a little bit of. We got to go through some of them storms to get to where to get to that sound structure. And and that being said, it's okay to be an example, good and bad. Sometimes today I'm glad that maybe I'm a good example, that I have a more sound structure in my life than before. And it doesn't, it doesn't mean just because we have our structure falls in or that we need repairs or that we have maintenance that we're bad, that we're a bad person. It doesn't mean that at all. It's just something as a human we have to work on every day. It's very important. And I know I keep probably saying the same thing, but the reason I'm stressing this, how important the structure is because we don't just affect ourselves whenever our structure gets poor. We affect everybody around us, everything around us. It doesn't really matter if we can affect our business, we can affect our animals, we can affect our family members, we can affect our friends. It's like that cup, that's got that water in it, and you shake it, and you shake it a little bit. That when it starts coming out, just imagine that's negative, and it's just getting all over everything around you, or all over everybody. That little bit of negative, that bad structure can lead to, hurtful things to others, and that's the last thing as a human we want to do is be unkind to the people around us and everything. But I was told by Robert and everybody, because they know I like to talk, and to keep an eye on the clock up there. And so I made it semi short today because I didn't want to just get up here and go over time and lose interest with everybody. And I wanted to just get straight to the point, to be honest with you, that we're blessed. We're blessed because we're forgiven of our sins. Every day you can ask for that forgiveness. We can repair, we can maintain, we can rebuild, whatever it takes in this world. And then it's so important that we have to be caring to others. I mean, I just don't know how more that that's what he wants. He wants us to love each other. Love thy neighbor, right? Love thy neighbor. And sometimes it's trying. It's trying. I ain't gonna say it, but I'll leave it alone. Robert talked about it last week, but whenever we have people that come to us, and it's usually another human that will test our patience, I guess to call it, or they might want to see. That's part of that structure again. Seeing where your structure's at. And you have to stop and, have that peace in you that we can realize, hey, that person's having a bad day. Or, hey, maybe who knows what happened. We don't have to be that, come at you. We have to be that understanding. It might even have to take an hour or two just to stop and not respond. And then come back and respond. Take a break. Whatever it takes just to be so we don't lose that integrity of our structure. And, if you keep your eye on God at all times, you can live in peace. You can live in peace. It's when we take our eye off of him is whenever our structure starts faltering. And it really is. I said, you can take your eye, even say we have so much lots of us work a lot, and you have a lot of work, and you have this, and you got your business, and whatever's going on, and all that stuff. If we don't put him into every aspect of our life, that structure weakens, and it weakens, and it weakens. And the more we fault, before you know it, we got a mess all over the place. And, and I keep trying to put that into everyday's terms. I'm not, I'm going a little bit away from what the Bible, because I'm trying to relate to everybody as far as how we have a fast-paced life, how it's easy to cut the corner, how it's easy not to put God into everything. When I mean everything, I mean that's into your children, into your work, into your food. Jonathan told me something that stuck with me for since he's ever come out of his mouth. He said, every time that he eats food, which we have to have nutrition to, to survive. So he said he opens his Bible and he reads it because he spiritually has to be fit as well. So every time he feeds his body, he feeds his spirit. And I thought, man, that's really awesome. That's a good way to look at it. You're eating anyway. What else are we going to do? This right here? We can put that word in us, and that keeps that structure solid. And that being said, I'll let Cannon pray us out.